For the last few Fridays, we've been doing this session, and you and I have been talking about kind of the last week in the world of Monkeypod, which is cool. But I'd actually like to expand the scope of these to talk about what are the news items in the broader business automation community. So I think we should try to do both today. What do you think?
Yeah. And it's not even the broader automation industry. Rather, it's like the broader small business industry as a whole. And what are they trying to get out of their technology? And a lot of times, automation or AI is part of the answer. But yeah, we're here to make sure your small business life is as easy as possible. So, we learn what buttons to press, but also keeping our ears open to trends and what's going on in the small business world in general, too.
There was a Keap outage, and I think that it impacted a lot of people. Fortunately, I think it was very, very brief, but it did impact a lot of people on Thursday. A vast number of users, whether they were partners or business owners who used the platform directly, were having trouble logging in. If they weren't logged in, they couldn't get logged in. They got a super generic browser error. And my conversation with Keap is that that's exactly what it was. Someone pushed an update to the login experience. There was something that they regretted in that push, and that the resolution in the short term has been that they've dialed that back. So software failures are frustrating, but I do think that the whole incident was probably 2 or 3 hours total. So I commend our friends at Keap for at least getting it solved quickly.
The interesting insider information, not inside of Keap, but inside of our membership community, is that it seemed to be, what is only best described as the straw that broke the camel's back. A bunch of Keap has been in limbo for a while. First confusion leading up to the acquisition of Thrive acquiring Keap, and then the chaos that ensued once it was acquired, and the dust is still settling. Not shit talking Keap. It's the reality of the kind of the chaos and the unintended consequences from the series of events. It's not that technology doesn't fail in other platforms. I think it was just sort of the culminating event where people are like, where are we going now? And luckily, cooler minds prevailed. My favorite comment on that thread was Melody Moore jumped in and she's like, hey, if you want to move, but I will let you know it's not the tool, it's what you're doing with it and how smartly you're using it, because whether it's Keap, High Level, HubSpot, or anything, anybody has the potential to make a mess out of it.
But I would argue that, if this type of incident happened 5 years ago, people would probably be like, oh, what a silly thing that they pushed a bad update and a couple hours later it was fixed. It kind of reminds me of a kindergarten story about the filling of a bucket, right? You've got so much capacity, but if you're already kind of at the brim and then one more thing happens, you could kind of overflow.
Yeah.
And I think there were some people who experienced that and some people who didn't. I have one silver lining as well that I took away from that conversation. And that's that a lot of people were doing business in Keap today, right? That's what a weird kind of perspective shift. But there's been this weird negative vibe about people deciding if they're staying or going and these types of things. But if, 10 minutes after the login experience goes down, you've got a handful of our members and people in other communities saying, what's happening? Why is this like this? I'm trying to get this thing done. Again, it's a weird silver lining to be oh, people were actually impacted.
You're here?
But exactly. If the company wasn't doing, what people wanted it to do, people wouldn't, notice when it went down. Clearly, people were trying to get stuff done in Keap today. It's been back up for a while now. So hopefully everybody got back on track and is feeling good. And also just a fun reminder that lots of businesses run on Keap. By the way, High Level's not perfect either. There was also a little bit of grumbling in the community at virtually the exact same time that workflows were running really slowly. So, adopting technology, this is the train we're on, and hopefully we can make the best of it even when stuff isn't going quite right at a variety of software companies. Now, the last thing as a reflection on the last week is that I want to talk about seeing people work through the fundamentals of business automation course. There's other videos that you can watch from us that explain why we thought it was, important to make this training free. We announced it to the people who showed up to that grand reopening, a week ago. So we've seen a bunch of people sign up for it. And I just want to shout out to Stuart. Stuart is the first person since we made the course free to not only start it, but get all the way through it. And with that, we've been giving certificates for every course that we've offered for, kind of forever. We did have the opportunity to update our automation related to that certificate. And now we have this cool little certificate centers where any course certificates that you accumulate from taking really anything, mini course, full length course from us here at Monkeypod, will load up into this center. You can download it, but you can also post it to social right from this. That's it for Friday. We hope you have a great weekend. We're all going to need a rest now for a couple of days, and we'll see you with some announcements on Monday. Bye, Jade. Have a good weekend.